are in fact factual as to what degree of improvement they are providing, because the impervious surfaces are an important aspect of that whole area.
So you'd want to have just a check on the
yeah, I recall the engineers. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. I apologize. That's what happens when you get old. That he changed the to the left. The plan's right here in front of me. To the left of the building, as I hold the plan in the right reading, where he increased the size of that. I believe it's a water retention facility, and he was able to, according to him, increase substantially the ability on that site area to get the water back into the ground rather than flowing over. And I think all of this is affected by the impervious surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my feeling. Is I would like to see, have corroborating that in fact these changes have represent these percentages of improvement.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
Could I comment to that?
Yes.
So on the plan, the existing condition right now is more or less a level spreader. It's not, it doesn't provide really any detention.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's really bad because what it does is it intercepts the groundwater table.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's water in the bottom of this basin most of the time, except maybe in the middle of the hottest part of the summer, it does dry up a little bit. So you have this impervious surface that is being discharged into a standing body of water that is directly into the water table.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've done is moved the basin uphill a little bit, made it much more substantial, larger, and raised the bottom so that we're roughly 1.5 feet or so above the water table, which, by the way, is the same amount that you have to be above the water table for the septic system. And so that what we're doing when it comes to water quality is we're capturing the first flush, that first 1 inch, and that will remain in that basin and be infiltrated through the ground and eventually into the water table.
Okay, well that's the intention of it, apparently.
And inland wetlands reviewed all of this part too.
Yeah, I was looking at the plan you provided on 10/20, I believe the date was, of last year.
Okay.
Where the existing building had slightly different configuration, and you had the retention area, and it was somewhat smaller. I didn't take a ruler out and get very specific, but I was going on the statements that you made at the last public hearing we had. Well, the last Zoom thing we had. I guess it would have been probably late December, but that's what I'm basing my opinion on. You indicated that you had increased substantially, I believe.
Oh, yes.
Your words.
Yes.
The ability to absorb this water back in, which is the whole idea behind impervious surfaces.
Right.
And if that be the case, this may be in your favor. I'm just saying, I would like to see that, in fact,
Okay.
this is the case. That's all.
Okay. And the other thing that we're doing is providing detention so that we are
Correct.
holding these larger storms and reducing the chance of downstream flooding. That's the other function.
Okay.
Let's
Peter.
not work.
Question, is there other, if you can't get this extra 4% for the impervious surfaces, is there other ways you can bring that down to the 15% to pervious surface?
Well, if you made the other parking lot pavers, that still wouldn't, I don't think, get us there. I tried that. I looked at that.
Our options.
Well, and the other issue is that by going 20 feet wide and having the fire marshal's input along with the fire chief, they prefer it paved for access. And paving it also just reduces a ton of maintenance that a gravel driveway requires.
Okay. Any other comment, Peter?
That's all on that subject.
Okay. Jerry?
My only concern, and I think I mentioned this at the last hearing, is just we're already starting to get the ice building up on Newfield in that area. So I know the engineer has indicated that they have taken steps in order to mediate that. But as we can see right now, once everything really started to get cold this past week, we have slick conditions in that area. So, does the impervious requirement actually exacerbate that, or does it help, or where are we on that? Just because at this time of the year it gets very dangerous going down Newfield.
Mr. Chairman, I could respond to that.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
It has little to no effect. When I walked the road with Jim Rollins, where all the ice is forming, he agreed that the majority of this water, the vast majority, is water that bleeds out of the cut slope that was created when Newfield Road was constructed. And that it would be the town that would need to put in drainage along the gutter of the road to collect that groundwater before it broke out. We distinctly had that conversation.
Not buying it.
Okay. Did you get what you needed out of that conversation, Jerry?
And could I add, Mr. Chairman,
Sure, go ahead.
that all of this work related to this building is all on the other side of the water course that splits the two, the upper facilities from the lower one. So all of the work up there that we're doing doesn't even make it to the road. It's intercepted by the water course.
What water course?
Yeah.
Let's
There's a culvert going under the driveway. So there is a water course that forms.
Okay, I was just asking.
Yeah.
okay. Art?
I say something?
Well, yeah, I read Jim Rollins's report where he states that the town, when that was put in, the icing that is forming is because of the way the road was cut in off the bank. And it doesn't have anything to do with the driveway.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
It's not what I read in Jim Rollins's report.
Can I say something?
Yes, go ahead. Just your name again.
Dennis Holton, 161
Okay, thank
Newfield
you.
Road.
Mhm.
I actually took a drive up that driveway during a heavy rainstorm, and all their swales along that driveway go downhill. They all end up at the north side of the driveway down at the bottom, where a natural brook is dumping in also, goes under the driveway and into that gentleman's little house's backyard and down that road. And then it's all that water is coming from a natural brook and the swales with the driveway, because all that water dumps off in one spot at the base of the driveway down by the little teeny storage shed. It goes under the driveway into that gentleman's backyard, down his little cut driveway that he just repaired that got washed out again. I've got pictures of it. You go down the road to Billy, the next door neighbor's driveway, he has no water running off of there. All the water is coming naturally down and a natural brook plus the side of the driveway. And you're gonna stand there and tell me that that water is not coming from you guys?
Yeah, I'd like to.
You gotta go up there, you gotta go up there when it's raining and look and see where all this water is coming from.
Okay. Jason, I know you've already talked to this issue. You've said you've been there with Rollins.
Mr. Chairman, I submitted a lettered response to the Department of Public Works,
Yes.
illustrating what has occurred there. I'd like to, Pam, do you have that, or?
This is your January 12th response?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that's the date.
Yes, I've got a copy of it in front of me.
Okay. And so in that, Mr. Picard and I walked around behind the shed on the ECAD property and took pictures of what happens. The water comes through the culvert on the ECAD driveway. There we go. So can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Oh, so this is the culvert. Ooh.
Well, Jason, I can make you co-host and you can pull it up and use it.
Okay.
Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, that's probably easier.
Sure.
Um,
Actually, you have it, but let me withdraw it and then I'll give it to you again and then you'll have a prompt.
okay.
And Jason, if you could just orient everybody to.
Yeah, I will.
where
Definitely.
everything is on that.
All right. Okay. So let me go. So the driveway, this is Newfield Road over on the left. And the driveway comes up along where my cursor's going, and this is the culvert crossing.
Okay.
And right, by the time I would say the drainage basin, if you will, from the upper properties to and the lower, the grade drops down between the two, and ultimately a water course forms, a little bit further upstream than where my cursor is. And this is the culvert. And then what happens is this winds around right to this point, right beside the neighboring house, and it just stops. It doesn't continue. And so when you look right here, Mr. Picard has told me that there used to be a CRP culvert right in this area that took what flowed in this brook to the swale or the ditch that runs along the driveway. But when you've completely blocked this off, that's what forces the water out of where it normally would flow and down the neighbor's driveway onto Newfield Road. And so, if you look here, this ditch, this is a head wall with a culvert that goes under Newfield Road. But if the water is not going to come around the neighbor's house and get into this ditch, where do you expect it's going to go? It's going to come right down his driveway, which is what happens. And then end up with his driveway out on Newfield Road.
Can I comment something there? Because I own that property. This is Berescar. I
Sure.
own one Newfield Road.
Yep.
So where you're pointing on the second arrow there up top, that is not blocked. It is still, that was done years ago, I believe by a previous owner or whoever did the fix the culvert or that little creek back in the day. there is a pipe underneath exactly where that arrow is pointing at. It is there. However, the issue is that is, yep, exactly right there.
Right
There is
there?
a pipe. You can actually see the pipe right there, and water does flow down that whole entire thing all the way down. The reason why that pipe cannot handle it is because the amount of water that comes through, instead of going through that pipe, decides to go right where that boulder is, to go right over it, right into the driveway, because this was a little creek that had a little bit of water trickling through it. If anyone would take a drive up there when it rains and see the amount of water that's coming just before that boulder, they would be able to see the fact that it is ridiculous amounts of water. I could not even explain the amount or the pressure, or the water is absolutely strong. It's going to find a way to go. It's not going to flow through that hole. I have dug that hole out with my hands and got on my knees and cleaned it out. There is no way I can keep up, or that hole can keep up with the amount of water and the debris that comes through the top of the other property. That is the problem here. So what you're trying to do is divert the situation and make it look like that was closed or it has failed. I would say it is old, and I am not saying I'm not responsible for fixing what it was, but I'm gonna say that is definitely has not been there for years, or is not designed for the amount of water that is coming. Anybody that's opposing that should take a ride up there when we have a little bit of rain.
Well, let me ask you this. When did the town put the culvert going across Newfield Road? Because they obviously anticipated that amount of water coming down that hill. That hasn't just appeared in the last couple of years.
I have no idea when that was put in. That is a good question, and I'm sure the town built stuff for thinking ahead of time. And I'm sure that was put in there, maybe a possibility of this water is going to maybe, grow in time. I don't know that. I don't know what the thought process was. But what I'm trying to tell you is that this wasn't an issue maybe, 5-10 years ago or 15 years ago when this thing was built. So it became an issue after that. So This was an issue with the previous owner as the house flooded. And I've actually talked to her, and before she foreclosed on the house, and we're talking about 10 years ago, when her house, the basement, would flood out from the amount of water that was coming from the top property. So
just as a matter of procedure, Mr. Karras and Mr. Dismukes, your conversations between each other should really go again to the chairman.
Just a question as we're talking about this, and where this slide that's up there, Jason. Whose property is this taking place on?
that is my property.
Okay.
121 Bearscar.
Okay. All right. So approximately where is the property line? Where is this definition of the
Hang on,
separation?
I'll bring up the plan.
Thank you,
to
Jason.
show that. Bear with me a second here.
And by no means here, I'm not saying that I'm arguing the fact that creek was maintained. This house was foreclosed for quite a few years, and I have full responsibility of making sure that it is flowing the way it has been flowing for years, and I understand that. All I'm trying to say is that the amount of water that is coming is so much that something has to be figured out up top, or something has to be done in a way that I don't think. I mean, you would have to literally change the course of this natural creek to even be able to put up with the amount of water that is coming. It's no longer a little creek, gentlemen.
Okay, if I could interrupt you, Jason, can you put your pointer on where this all is taking place?
Yeah, so where the pictures were taken was from this area right here. Here's the shed. You walk down behind the shed, we're like right in this corner.
Mm-hmm.
And the existing house is right in this area. And the creek comes right through where my cursor's going. And this is where it starts like kind of winding around and going around the house. But the culvert in the road, and I don't have the culvert on this plan. I want to say it's a 24-inch culvert. It's not small.
Okay,
And
just,
so-
let's go back to this little water course.
Sure.
Whereabouts on the property? Can you kind of trace out where that thing
Yeah,
flows from?
yeah, let me zoom in here. So this is the drive, hang on a second here. Oh, come on. So this is Newfield Road here.
Yep.
You come in the driveway, and you come up the driveway here, and this is the culvert right here.
Okay. So this water course is coming from the upper
So
section.
believe it or not, it comes across. It comes across. So there's some wetlands over here on the property to the north.
147.
Yeah, and then the wetlands comes.
So that whole area is all
It's,
defined.
yeah,
by
this is
happening.
this didn't just show up. This is a wetland.
Yeah.
Right here,
Mhm.
the depressed area, and it's going to collect stormwater.
Mhm.
And so, yes, there was development here. Yeah, the stormwater flows into this level spreader and it goes down the hill, and that's what we want to fix.
Yeah.
And that's when you come to my plan.
Mhm.
That's the whole point.
Okay, no, I understand the whole concept. I just wanted to see,
Yeah.
because it sounds like even without the development, there's
Significant water runs through there.
Mr. Chairman,
Can I speak? I've been here for 25 years. Can I speak, Mr. Chairman, on this matter here of what we're talking about? I've been
yeah,
at this.
sure.
I've been at this location for 25 years. I knew Mr. Lyon. I knew Mr. Lyon real good that lived in that house that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
He lived there for 40 years.
Mhm.
He told me he was never able to keep a driveway there. He tried replacing it twice and he gave up. The lady that lived there after him, that bought the house from him, Michelle Namey, all those boulders in that driveway, one day I came home, I found 2 triaxle loads in the middle of my driveway, and I had to take my tractor and move that stuff over there for her so I could use my driveway. She had asked no permission. So I moved those boulders over there for her.
It's my
The pipe
pleasure.
back then was substantially longer heading towards my property.
Mhm.
The pipe was at least 10 to 15 feet longer. We never had this big mess down at the street that we're having now down there until we dug up this driveway. Dug up his driveway next door. Now it's all going into the street. They've never been able to put a driveway there because of it's not the regular rain that comes down. It's when we have 2 and 3 and 4 inches of rain.
Yeah.
On an inch of rain, there's no problems down there before the construction in his yard.
Mhm.
2 inches of rain, you start having a problem. This time of year, what happens down there is the water in the ground freezes and then it starts to swell. And that's what's happening there now. Now it's changed. The water is going through that section of driveway, the boulders that she had me throw in there. So this has been a constant problem. I tried to purchase this property, if everybody remembers, but these people bought it for a little bit more than what I was willing to offer the bank. We wanted to destroy this property and make a parking lot for ECAD there because of the water situation that's happening there. So on our side, we have made every attempt to grab this piece to prevent the headache that we're talking about here today. But the carpet was pulled from underneath us. We cannot stop the water from coming off the mountain. It will come down. We can only slow it down. And we have tried to the best of our ability to do that. And I think we have a good plan. And also, we're throwing away a lot of good money here, making retention ponds. So let's keep that in mind because these ponds are not inexpensive, very expensive to create. And for what the neighbors are asking, it's really causing a hardship on what we're doing here. There's no reason for it.
All right,
So
let's try
that
to
said,
stay-
I'd like to give the floor back over to you people.
Yeah, let's it appears that you've got a wetland that drains to this area, and any contribution of a impervious surface is going to contribute at some point, because I haven't seen the profile on that driveway, Jason, but you got to be dealing with water as it comes down a lot of pavement. How long is the road all the way?
From the street all the way to the building, about 1,000 feet.
Yeah, it's about that.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
and now, right now, there are water bars that are along the driveway that take water and move it off the driveway. So it doesn't just run all straight down the driveway. It's moved off of it into the wetland area.
Let's, because it's hard to discuss just the text amendment proposal without talking about the rest of the project. Do we have any other comments from the commissioners with regards to this? The text amendment?
Sure.
Peter?
Yeah, I know Jason, you're designing that for the 1-inch rainfall, but what happens with the 2-inch and the 3-inch rainfalls? That'll just overflow and then we'll have this same problem?
No. These ponds are designed for the 100-year to detain the 100-year storm.
Okay, because you were talking 1-inch rainfall before.
That's the water quality part. So the water quality part is going to go into the ground. The larger storms, there is an outlet structure that will detain and release the larger storms slowly.
So based on your calculations, how many inch rainfall will that basin?
Well, the 100-year storm is 7 inches of rain in a 24-hour period.
So it'll retain that much.
Yes.
I just want to get that out there for everyone.
Thank you.
That's a good point, Peter.
Find that.
All right. Anybody, any other comments before we, sounds like we've kind of covered the ground.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Jared Freitas at 129 Newfield Road.
Yes.
With the ongoing issue of knowing how the impervious percentage is of the current property, along with the wetlands and the existing drainage issue, what kind of numbers are we going to see with the approved percentage increase of impervious land as far as damages with all that rainwater?
All right. Well, first of all, Jason has just described that he's got this retention basin that's a whole new design, because the old structure, which supposedly was engineered on, Craig, when did this first come through? 16?
Yeah, 16.
Okay. That it was not designed properly, so that the bottom of that kind of a flat, wasn't even a detention basin, because you got standing water in it pretty much all the time. So you're just introducing more water.
Right.
Didn't do the job. So part of this application is to correct that situation and bring the bottom of it at least a foot above the water table, the average water table. So that would help. And if it's set up for a 100-year storm, and you said that's a 7-inch plus rainfall in a 24-hour period, it's a pretty substantial opportunity to hold back water that's coming off all the new impervious surface and existing for the first phase. So that's what that's all about. So it's not just an inch or two. But that's how this design is set up. So when we get into the second part of this application, we'll discuss all of that. Right now, it's an application to ask the commission to go ahead and change the wording. If the applicant it doesn't get approval for that part of the application, then the other avenue they have is going for a variance, asking the Zoning Board of Appeals for a variance. And that would be a specific request for this piece of property, for this application that they're dealing with here, it wouldn't be townwide on the rural residential zones. So that's kind of the difference of what we're talking about. And Attorney Renzullo pointed out that in the rural residential, when you look at our schedule of what could be done, there's an awful lot of things that have the opportunity to go through special permit in a rural residential zone, that if in fact their planned development needed more impervious surface, and it could provide the low impact development, which is what this detention basin is about, as part of it. They would have to go through a special permit, but all rural residential would be in that potentially application period or situation. So it's that where all the rural residential has the opportunity to do that, or the ZBA application where a particular individual piece would have that treated on its own merits. So that's really the question in my mind. Anybody else from the commission have a comment with regards to that?
George, I
Yes.
would like to comment something.
Yes.
They talk about in this zoning change, having the pervious pavers, pervious concrete put in,
Yes.
pervious asphalt. And it talks about for the life of the surface. Well, what is the life of the surfaces they're going to put in? Now, how do we deal with a surface that has a life expectancy of, say, 10 years, or it needs annual maintenance, vacuuming or something to allow the water to go through so it doesn't build up with compacted sands and stuff? So I just think we need to have something here that addresses the life of the pervious area, because he's going to put in in this application, they're putting in a pervious parking lot to draw down their percentages, but that's something that's missing in this thing, and it's also missing in the HL zone, that there's nothing about the maintenance and the life of these pervious surfaces.
That's a good point, Will. And that's true. When we were even discussing the implementation of an LID treatment of stormwater management, that's one of the things that in testing these structures, it talked about maintenance was a big requirement. And again, it's a lot of things that up front it looks good, but if it's not maintained, it defeats the whole purpose of what it's designed to do.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, Jason.
I think if you look at the zoning regulations, it specifically states that a parking area or driveway that is constructed of pervious pavement or pavers is not included, would be excluded from your impervious surface. So it doesn't contribute to impervious surface. Whereas what the amendment that we're proposing does is we're offsetting surface that does contribute to that percentage. So in the way the regulations are written, this pervious parking lot right here is not to be counted as impervious area that in your calculation of impervious surface, if that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense. But I think what will
This regulation states that it has a life. And unless that regulation's changed, how do you determine the life?
No, but you're very accurate statement. It requires a maintenance program. And in order to continue to have the pervious quality that you shoot for when you go ahead and build it, you've got the substrate. Everything has to work together, otherwise you're not accomplishing what you're trying to get to. All right. Any other comments from the commissioners?
George, I just want to add on to what Will just said. So does that mean that we would have sort of like a renewal process, X number of years, where the applicant or applicants who use this methodology would have to come before the commission and say, here's where we are at this particular juncture. Because, how do we protect the surrounding property owners?
Well, in my experience, there should be a maintenance program that's got to be certified that it's followed. And that's, again, somebody's got to interject, an inspection and keep track of this stuff. Whether or not it happens, it's nice in theory, but on the other hand, it's in our regulations that this is a possibility to do as an alternative. And we've got to honor what we've got in our regulations. If we don't like what we put in the regulations, then we have a public hearing and make modifications. But this application is in place with what we have in our regulations. But this kind of a surface does need maintenance. So, all right. If we don't have any other comments, if we keep addressing the same thing, we're not gaining any ground. Then somebody make a comment?
Yes, may I make a comment?
Yes, sure. This is Attorney Renzullo.
Yes, we're talking about policing impervious areas. Who does the policing at the lake, in the Highland Lake zone? How does that work? And how would it work any differently in this zone? If we added this amendment, how would it work any differently? I don't see the difference. You start out with what's required, and then people maintain their area. I mean, I don't see how it's any different than what's at the Highland Lake zone, what's being proposed. And to make it something different is really, it's really odd.
Okay, any other comments?
Chairman,
Yes.
I guess I would just say that this is not the Highland Lake zone, period. It's not. It's different. Our zoning regulations were written and our plan of conservation development was written to accommodate the individual areas because they are individual, and they are different. This is not the Highland Lake zone. This is Winchester Center. And so that's the reason for the different zones in our plan of conservation and development and our all of our zoning regulations. That's the reason, because it's not Highland Lake. It's not the Highland Lake Business District. It's not anything else but where we are. And that's why it's different. And that's how the zoning regulations were written. And if it was intended to have that bonus 5% here, it would have been written in for that reason.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, this is Jason.
Yes, Jason.
The whole point of having it be a requirement that bonus has to be by special permit gives the zoning commission the ability to apply it on a case-by-case basis. And so, when you think about, look, I have to take issue with the statement that if it had been thought of, it would have been there. I mean, if I went back and looked at zoning regulations starting in 1956 in rural, back then it was an RU zone, all the way up till 2014 when there was a big zone change. It became an RR zone. Same properties. That whole period from 56 to 2014, what was allowed in an RU zone? A hospital, a hotel, a commercial kennel. These things have persisted as permittable uses. Areas where you live. And what we're looking for is a commercial kennel, which is a permitted use. Now it's by special permit, but it's still a permitted use in the zone. And having an ability to provide that leeway as long as that increase is being offset. I don't see any detrimental outcomes from that.
Okay. Will, did you have something else?
No.
Okay. All right. If I think we've heard everybody's point of view on this. I don't see any, in my opinion, we'll question the rest of the commissioners, but to continue the public hearing on this, I think we should close the public hearing at this point. We've got all the input we hopefully need with regards to making a decision. If that's the case, then let's put a motion forward to close the public hearing.
Just before you do that, can we just read off the letters that and acknowledge that you, not read them aloud, because like I noted, the commission has been provided with them. But there were several letters that 244 South Road, for one, wanted to make sure that they were considered as part of this public hearing. So this is probably a good time for purposes of both applications to identify the letters, both that were in favor of the proposal and in opposition to.
Right.
Well, first of all, I think that all the letters should be part of the file on this application, or both applications.
Yeah, but just so that as far in case there's an appeal, they should probably be read, not the letters, but the identify who has submitted.
All right, I'll probably make mistakes on the pronunciations of the everybody's names, but this is well, there's a package of letters that look like they're in favor of the application, and then letters that object to, I guess, one or both of the applications. So, I mean, the letters themselves clearly state, whether it's most of them that I've read that are in opposition as to this increase of 5%. But let me run through the list. It's pretty lengthy, but there was Alina Alvarez from New Rochelle, Nico Bizur, I'm crucifying the names, I'm sure, from Orange, Connecticut, Susan Boylard, Sarah Brault, Tina Burnham, Gwen Charles, Pam Church, Catherine Davignon, Tanya Haig Dorr, Bonnie Eisler, Jessica Fitzgerald, James Foley, Linda Fowler, Candida Fusco, Haley Gajir, Dana Hanke, Barbara Hayward, Sue Hessian, Lauren Howard, Jake Kellner, Gus Lippman, Karen McRae, Cynthia Murbach, Izzy O'Connell, Sarah Olizer, Leslie Pahonik, Dave Roberts, Nancy Runsky, Linda Ryan, Carolyn Sire, Megan Stretzka, Patty Tarnowitz, Linda Vivian, Anne Marie Williams, Leslie Wolfel, and Charles Zirzo. And then in opposition, William.
And then just, I want to, 1 second, George. I just want to add to that. James Foley, Linda Fowle, and Candida Fusco.
Okay.
Just, you might have, or I didn't hear you say those, so.
No, I didn't see him on the list, but anyways, William, this is in opposition. William Aarons, Richard Alling, Richard Berger, Bethany Carpenter, Michael Clark, Alan DeCara, 2 letters from Alan DeCara, Melissa Freitas, Dennis Holton, Ida Kessler, George Martin, Louis Egia, Robert Muller, Patrick O'Brien, William Pazzo, Amy Reeve, Patricia Reynolds, Paul Rifkin, and Karen Stone. Do you have any others?
And Barris Carrot.
Okay.
Yeah, Barris Cara was another one in opposition that was provided. It didn't make that a sheet.
Okay, all right. So, but all of those letters are, we just got them late, so I haven't even, I've scanned through them. Most of the opposition that I saw was proposed to the proposal of the text amendment. But others were for both the site plan as well. And the ones in favor were in favor of, I guess, the whole entire two applications. Basically, the in favor was make this project go forward. That's my interpretation of that. But anyways, they're all there on the public record. So what's we had a motion, I think, from
George, I'll move that we close PZC here, public hearing 20-29 for zoning regulation change.
I'll second it.
Art seconded. We have discussion. All in favor of closing the public hearing, raise your hand, please. Anybody opposed? No, so it's a unanimous to close that part of the public hearing. Okay, let me just get my paperwork organized here. All right, the second public hearing is the PZC 20-30 special permit. Pam has read the public information with regards to advertising, and it went to the COG and neighboring communities. And the notices have been certified, and the signs have been placed. Their sign has been placed at the property.
The only other point I'd make, George, is that Inland Wetlands Commission approved a modification of the existing wetlands permit on December 16th, 2020. Architecture Review Committee reviewed the proposal at their regular meeting of January 21st, 2021, and they have made neither a favorable recommendation nor are they opposed. They determined, as they did with the November application, that most of the development is unseen from the road, and they just felt it was outside of their purview.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Jason, for the applicant, or how do you want to move forward? Do you want to talk further about any additional issues that you've highlighted, or how do you
let me share my screen again. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
So I want to go to the existing conditions, so because it's easier to see there. So this is what's out there right now. And I just want to bring a couple of points here. Just to remind the commission that in 2016, there is a building proposed to be built where we're substantially where we're showing the proposed building. There was a 5,000 square foot building that was shown. There, as part of the construction of this building, there was electrical power run for in anticipation of the new building. So there we have electrical line here. We have water, that there's water service that has also been run for the building that when the original application was approved was under the understanding that when it came time to build this building, they would be able to do so. And those facilities are there in place. Just wanted to, make that point. Now, this is the infamous level spreader, whatever you want to call it. And I just wanted to show it collects water from the of the existing building, the parking area, and I want to say probably a quarter of this parking lot, plus whatever runs over land, is directed to this. I mean, you can see if by the contours, it's dug into the ground. There's no berm at this end. And the water just sits in here. It's a mosquito haven. And when you get the larger storms, all that happens is it just flows over the edge. That's it. And so what we're proposing is to fix this, is really in conjunction with building our desired building, is to now have a structure that doesn't just dump the water down the hill. It will infiltrate the smaller storms into the ground, and it will detain the larger storms. And so we have an outlet structure. Good God, I'm not doing so hot here. We have an outlet structure right in this area here. So when we get the 100-year storm or a 50-year storm, that water will rise up in the berm and it will slowly be discharged through the outlet structure into a level spreader, but nothing like what happens now. I mean, what happens now when there's large rainstorms, there's a large volume of water that's coming into that existing level spreader, and it may go down the hill slower because it's being spread out, but it's still going down the hill and there's no detention whatsoever. And I don't know if you can see through these contours a little bit, you'll see in relation, this is the existing one here, and the new one we've moved uphill, and we're providing an actual berm for storage. That's big here. And that's what's going to help reduce the water issues down by the culvert in the driveway and behind the neighbor's property. So that's a vast improvement. This thing's killing me. So I guess one of the things that we ran into when the original building was shown, it was stated on the plan that was approved in 2016 that the building was to be a kennel and office space. And so I guess what I'm trying to wrap my head around is what are we here to get approved? A special permit for a use. Well, that use is already on this property. And we're trying to just build a building that was intended to be built from day one when the existing building that's there was approved. And we're trying to, under the circumstances, meet the regulations in order to do that. But there's been a significant amount of change from the time that this building, the original building was built, the existing one versus this one. And I just would hope the commission can keep that in mind, that We're trying to comply and do so in a responsible manner and make improvements over this site that definitely need to be made. I don't know if there's any questions.
All right, well, one of the things in our zoning regulation, the current ones that we're living on right now is in the rural residential, there's a part of this, building dimensions and placement. The last item in that block says 1 principal building per lot. So I'm not sure how we're getting a second building without going through a variance request from the ZBA.
Well, how about when the original site plan was approved and that building was depicted on there? That wasn't an issue in 2016.
I don't know. I wasn't sitting on the commission, so I'm not privy to what took place at the application in 2016.
Well, what makes one building principal over the other?
1 principal building per lot. So I guess you got to deal with the definition of what does principal mean.
Well,
I don't know. I'm just looking at that, and it typically would be 1, primary building, and usually in the rest of its outbuildings, you got a barn or a garage or something like that.
Well, let's look. I would look at it this way. What's the goal of this facility? Is to train dogs. That's the goal.
Okay.
It's to train service dogs. Have a training facility. That's the principal building, is to train dogs, and the accessory to that, or a subordinate, whatever you want to call it, is a place to keep the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I would review it.
Okay. No, I just had to raise it because I just,
Yep. And if that's not enough, it's smaller than the existing building, so it is smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that does fit that criteria.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, is this a time for, can I speak or no? Are we still?
Well, let me just make sure that, Jason, you've presented
Okay.
what you need to do. My understanding is you're going to, based on what the fire marshal said, this building is going to be sprinklered.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, where is the, you got to have a reservoir to pump from. Where is
That's
that?
all that's up here in this existing building.
It's existing now.
For both buildings.
Okay.
When this building was built, that was taken into account. So, Mr. Picard, he spent a ton of money when they built this building with the understanding that they were going to get this building built.
Okay, I'm just
looking
at what okay, so you've got a generator.
Generator right here that's ties for both buildings.
And the pump system for the sprinkler system is?
Yep.
Where?
It's in the existing building at the top. It's right in this corner. There's a whole large tank and pump room.
Okay, so, but those are issues the building department would talk about.
Sure.
To make compliance, not ours. I didn't see the location because I wasn't involved in 2016 when this was going in. Okay. All right.
George, can I interject?
Yes, Craig.
I was chair at the time that this was approved. The main problem I've seen since I've watched the evolution of this since 2014 or whatever the hell the date was, is that regulations as the fire codes and so forth. So in all fairness to the applicant, a lot of these things have taken place over the years. Originally, a lot of the
Really? Now it's gonna quit on us?
Yeah, that's not more horse shit.
So, did he cut out?
Somebody did.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did.
Oh, you passed out. Give me a fucking break. Fucking joke.
So now what?
I don't know.
I don't know. Where's Pam?
Should we just continue on our own?
I don't think that's gonna happen.
How convenient.
Is Pam here?
I think you're the host now, Jason.
Oh boy.
Well, if Jason is the host, we know which direction this is gonna go.
This is bizarre. I'm gonna text her.
I don't know how we could be on without the host, but
Right.
All right, we're gonna take a vote now. Let's just vote on it. I say we vote on it. Yeah, Jason, you're left by yourself here. I'm sorry, Jason. This is over for you.
They moved us over into purgatory.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, see what happens. All right.
Should we try to disconnect and try to rejoin?
I texted her. I haven't. I'm waiting to see what she says.
I think they need to rejoin us.
Yeah, this is.
I bet you we were gonna have to rejoin because the host is not here anymore. Pam is the host, so we would have to probably go back into the meeting, right?
So we're gonna leave and go back in?
We should
Oh,
close out and go back.
Craig you're here.
She made Jason the co-host.
No, I think
When
we
she
have to
goes off,
rejoin
we come
them.
up with Jason is the co-host now.
All right.
We're gonna rejoin?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to.
All right.
So do we all just get out and do this again?
Yep.
I guess so.
Okay. Here goes nothing, I guess, right?
The other side.
Exactly.
All right, we're out.
Fucking joke.
All right. Oh, I see. Yeah, it won't let me